Come on, hurry up, join the lecture immediately. निकिता,
येस सर.
जरा कॉल कर बाकीच्यांना.
हा सर करते.
Come on, ask others to join the lecture. I have already placed the message on the group. प्रज्वल, बाकीचे कुठे आहेत रे?
सर येत आहेत. कॉल गेला होता.
तुमची आता टॅलेंट अँड प्रोग्रेसिव्ह बॅचची परीक्षा असेल बरं का.
सर पुढच्या वीकमध्ये ना?
हा, डेट तुम्हाला सांगतील, कोळी सर सांगतील.
हा सर.
निकिता काय कॉल करते का सगळ्यांना? ओके, चला सुरू करूया.
येस सर.
ऐकू येतंय का?
हो सर.
हो, कोण येते अजून? हं. Can you see the
हा
screen?
सर.
Okay. Now we are dealing with unit number one. We have discussed on. We have already discussed on the uh, topics, subtopics which comes under the main heading marine habitat. We have discussed on the physical characteristics. We have also discussed on the chemical characteristics, and from the last lectures onwards, we have just begin with the uh, classification of the marine habitat. So these are the points that we have, some of the points which has been discussed in the last lecture, and we'll have the revision of this in short, and then we'll proceed further. So there is a horizontal stratification as well as vertical stratification in the marine habitat as well. So these are the points that we are going to deal with. As usual, you know that largest habitat in the biosphere biosphere is the area on the earth where the life exists. It may be in the atmosphere, it may be terrestrial, it may be aquatic. So all it constitutes the biosphere, but within this biosphere, marine habitat is the largest one and contributes about 70%, approximately about 70% of the Earth's surface. And we, as India, we have a coastal line about 8,120 kilometers with the average depth of 400 meters. So, ocean or sea is the place of the origin of the life. Or it is also called as cradle of life. And on the basis of physico-chemical conditions, that is light, salinity, currents, waves, uh, dissolved salts, etc., and the aquatic fauna, marine habitat is further divided into different zones. The marine habitat horizontal stratification is there, and horizontally it is divided into two regions, that is pelagic region and the benthic region. So how this is horizontally horizontally this region, surface region, is the pelagic region, and this region is the benthic region, horizontal benthic region. So these are the two major divisions of the marine habitat. Now, first of all, we'll be discussing on the pelagic. So this is how uh, schematic classification is there. Pelagic region, and this is the deep sea or benthic region. Entire this is the benthic region. As you go vertically, deep and deep, this benthic region, depth of this benthic region goes on increasing from the shore towards the deep sea. So pelagic region further divided into neritic and the oceanic. This is how this is the continental area or the land surface under water, as it is mentioned here. This is the land surface under water. And this is the tabular form of the classification of the marine habitat, basically divided into pelagic region and the benthic region. Again, a pelagic region or the surface divided into neritic and the oceanic, like this. Pelagic divided into neritic and the oceanic region. And see further this benthic region. We'll be discussing on this benthic region later on. So we'll just begin with this pelagic region. So pelagic zone or pelagic region. It includes entire water. Means all this entire, maybe towards the shore or maybe in the deep in the sea, in the open sea. All this region is the pelagic region, pelagic zone, which is further subdivided into neritic and the oceanic, as it is mentioned here. Neritic and oceanic. In this diagram also, neritic and oceanic. Either one of the diagram you can. This will be a more fruitful, because this is also explaining the continental shape, the form of the continent underwater, whether it is in the form of a shell or whether it is in the form of the slope. That is also is explained in this uh, diagram, which is also here. This is the continental shelf, and this is the continental slope as such. Okay. Now, neritic zone, the shallow water region of the shore, is called a neritic zone. Now, what is the actual limit of this zone? It lies over a continental shelf. Now, what is this continental shelf? This continental shelf is nothing but it is the underwater extension of the continent, and it extends uh, up to the width of 16 to 40 kilometers and up to the depth of 200 meters. Means, see, this is entire. So this is the limitations, or this is the shoreline, you can say, and whatever land form or the part of the continent below the water. This is entire. This is pelagic zone. Surface water is there. This is the land form which is underwater. So this form, this area which is explained here, this up to this is the continental shelf. टप्पा टप्पा एक म्हणूया आपण, पाण्याखाली असलेला जमिनीचा एक टप्पा, that is continental shelf. So this, the limitations of this continental shelf is recorded up to, in some of the parts it may be up to 16 kilometers, on in some other area it may extend up to 240 kilometers. So such is the landform which has been recorded till now up to the under this water. As far as the depth of this is concerned, it measures about 200, yes, 200 meters. So 200 meters is the depth where this continental shelf is there. Now at this zone, as this zone is connected with land, it is much influenced by the factors of the terrestrial environment. Of course, naturally. So whatever terrestrial influenced by the terrestrial activities means whatever human dwelling is there along the coastal line, the impact of the industrialization, the impact of the tides, impact of the waves, impact of the erosion, all this is influenced into this region, in this Neritic region. So the landform or the sea part of the pelagic region up to the extension of the continental shelf is the shelf. Continental shelf is the open entire water body beyond the depth of 200 meter constitutes oceanic zone Mahasagar. It lies in the continental slope with steep slope beyond the continental shelf. Let's see. This is the steep slope continental continental shelf. This is the continental shelf. Steep slope. This is continental slope, and see still it again goes further down into the trench. This is the trench. In some of the parts, the depth may extend, it may beyond 6,000 meters, as it has been quoted earlier that the average depth of the oceans is about 400 meters, but some of the parts are there in where the trenches are still extending beyond the 6,000 meters. So here's the oceanic zone, continental slope, as well as the this uh, trenches. They constitute this part constitutes the oceanic zone. Now, this terrestrial environment factors do not influence this zone, of course, because there is no contact, there is no connection with the terrestrial part. There is no direct influence of the human activities as well as the tidal actions as well as whatever the influence is there of the industrialization that is not interfering into this zone. Now this oceanic zone beyond continental which archibenthic zone and abyssal zone. This is the archibenthic zone and benthic means now this is the part of benthic region. So this French archibenthic or Bethel what it is called as deep seated regions for the revisions. Okay. Now, vertical stratification. Now, this vertical stratification depends on the penetration of light. And now we have already discussed this while discussing the physical properties of the marine habitat. So such type of divisions we have come across while studying the freshwater ecosystems also. But here The limitations are the area which is often covered by these three different zones is of about 0 to 200 meters. Euphotic means truly illuminated, or which is also called as producing zone, because the photosynthetic activities, these are accelerated, they are much more rapid, and you will find the photosynthetic organisms, especially in the form of these phytoplanktons, they are much abundant in this zone up to the depth of, so this is the euphotic zone up to the depth of 200 meters. Okay, as in the earlier figure, this is the neritic zone. Entire this is the pelagic zone. This is the neritic zone. Beyond the continental shelf is the oceanic zone, and here this is the depth of about 200 meters, which is highly illuminated, highly penetrated with the sunlight, solar radiations, and highly supports the photosynthetic organisms, majorly which are in the form of phytoplanktons. This also supports primary and secondary consumers. And you know, when I say primary consumers, these primary consumers are the herbivores, and secondary consumers are the primary carnivores. So the next zone is the dysphotic zone. Moderate amount of light is there. Now this zone extends from 200 to about 1000 meters. So this is the dysphotic zone, 2 to 1000 meters. And this is, of course, here this becomes a this upper layer of this dysphotic zone is, as it is in contact with the euphotic zone, you will find this in the upper layer of this dysphotic zone, the number of autotrophic organisms are more, and gradually you will find the number of these autotrophic organisms, they go on decreasing in this zone. The animals are mostly here secondary consumers, and very few primary consumers are there. Then whatever a few primary consumers are present, these few primary consumers, they will find are restricted to the upper limit of this despotic zone. The plant life is very rare, as I have mentioned, because there is limitations here for the penetration of the light. So whatever plants, autotrophs, which are present, which will be available, or this zone which supports them, that will be only restricted to this upper layer of this dysphotic zone. And now third one is the aphotic zone. Below this 1000 meters up to 6000 means up to this trench, this in this all this is the aphotic zone, where light is completely absent. Now these producers are totally absent, and the animals in this are secondary consumers, and and also feed on the means all the carnivorous organisms, they are found there. So this is how the zonation, this vertical stratification on the basis of the penetration of light is in this noise form. This is euphotic zone, dysphotic zone, and aphotic zone. Now this is the matter as far as your syllabus is concerned. Maybe given the weightage of short notes as far as your tests are concerned in the progressive and the talent batch. Let's move towards another point. Now these pelagic communities, what are the organisms which are found in this pelagic region or pelagic zone? The pelagic communities are classified into two groups: planktons One is the planktons and another is the other newstons. Now, what are these planktons? You are quite familiar with this word planktons, and these planktons are the organisms. These are the floating organisms, and they have given the name by ancients. Uh, the literal meaning, the Greek meaning of this uh, word plankton is they are wanderers. Wanderer. That's when they are wandering from one place to another, and they are moved with along with the water currents. Now, some of the planktons, even though they have the capacity to have the but these are the organisms which cannot move against the water current, against the strength of the waves, strength of the water currents, and as a result, they are dragged along with the currents. So such animals, they are classified, they are grouped, they are called as planktons. Now they may be of forms or microscopic forms. So further, they are classified on the basis of presence. Clearly, you have the idea of it. But let's see what type of uh, organisms in the form under the phytoplanktons, floating plants, chlorophyll. Hence, they are autotrophs, capable of undergoing the process of photosynthesis, can be able to have the solar radiations because they contain chlorophyll in their pigments, chlorophyll pigment in their cytoplasm, and in presence of sunlight and the carbon dioxide. You know, carbon dioxide, the oceans are the very good deposits of the carbon dioxide, and thus the process of photosynthesis which more accelerated within these organisms which bears this chlorophyll. So they are producers, and these are varieties of algae like uh, dinoflagellates, Noctiluca, Simnodium, Trichoderma, diatoms, and these are the some of the generic names of these phytoplanktons. As far as the zooplanktons are concerned, these are all animals. These are organisms which are having the locomotory organs, but they cannot withstand the water current. So they are passively they are moving along with the water, or they float on the water. And these are the examples. So this zooplanktons, phytoplanktons, which are present, they contribute a lot as far as the food organisms of the fish is concerned, or food of the aquatic organisms are concerned. So these zooplanktons, they belong to the radiolaria. These are the protozoans with having a reinforced body covered with the calcareous shells, ostracods, foraminiferans, polychaetes, different larvae, cladocerus, copepods, eggs and larval forms of another. Uh, these are also certain tiny mollusks are there, amphipods, etc. And these zooplanktons, they are further classified into following types. Now, depending on the duration of the life cycle and the body size. Now, this classification is very important because some of the organisms, they now though neuroplanktons, some certain zooplanktons, they are referred as neuroplanktons because they are also called as temporary planktons as they spend some part of the life cycle as a plankton. Otherwise, they lead the normal lives, and they show seasonal variations. and are abundant during breeding season because as they are in the form of eggs and larvae. So eggs and larvae of trochophores, say for example, trophophore larva, Nauplius larva, Zuia, Myces, Megalopa. These are all the four. So trophophore larva is of Balanoglossus. This Nauplius, Zuia, Myces, Megalopa, Almia, Phylosoma, Bipinaria. So all these names of the larva which we have quoted here. Can you tell me these larval forms are they belongs to which group of the arthropods? Arthropods they show exhibit these larvae, Zoea, Myces, Megalopa, Phylosoma, and so on. Can you tell me? Myces. See, we have mounted is the larva of prawn. Zoea larva is the larva of crab. Megalopa is also the larva of crab. Phylosoma is the larva of lobster. Bipinaria is the larva now. This bipinaria larva is larva. You have studied starfish, right? Accidental larva is a larva of herdmania. So these are the different larval forms. So when this larval stage is completed, now they get transformed into the adult forms. So whatever the names which I have quoted, Nauplius, Zuia, Myces, Megalopa, Almia, Phylosoma, all these are the crustacean larvae. Bipinaria is the echinoderm larvae. Acident tadpole is the Urochordate, that is larva of
Frog.
accident
Frog.
larva of no,
Frog.
it is a larva of herdmania, not frog. Acidian tadpole. Now you have confused with the word tadpole, isn't it?
Yes,
This
sir.
larva, see, this larva appears to be like that of the tadpole. It appears to be like that of the tadpole, but this is the larva of herdmania. And if you have studied the retrogressive metamorphosis in your zoology classes, you might have come across. So, herdmania, a protochordate. Bi- Bipinaria, larva of starfish and echinoderm. Rocophore larva of Balanoglossus. It is also an protochord. So these are the larval forms. But if you these are the larval forms, they are actually spending the temporary life in this form, and thus they act as a planktons. They act as a zooplanktons, and these they form a food of the certain marine organisms. But once they are metamorphized, once they are transformed into the adult, their life stage is changed and they lead the independent life. So the adults are not considered here as a planktons or the neuroplankton. So these are the forms, larval forms, which acts as a they lead their life as a temporary planktons. Okay. Now, this next category of the zooplankton, they are the holoplanktons or the permanent planktons. They spend the entire life as a planktons itself. Now, these are the Ceratium, Batiluca, Velella, Physalia, jellyfish, Lucifer, Salpa, Doliolum, Salpa, this Sagitta, it's a minor phylum, Sagitta, Doliolum. All these are the forms which are the entire life, they are not transformed into the entire life, they remain as they are. So they are considered as a holoplanktons, and they form the food of the some of the fishes, or they may fall prey to the food as certain organisms, or they may feed on the other organisms, as in case of Physalia and jellyfish. Then next is the microplanktons. See, holoplanktons, they are further, according to the size, they are classified into micro, macro, and nanoplanktons on the basis of the size of the organisms. So these are small, collected by the plankton net. Size varies from zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.3 mm, and these all the crustacean larvae which I have mentioned earlier, they fall in this category as a microplanktons. So certain algae in the form of dinoflagellates, these are the algae which bears the chlorophyll in them. They also called, they are also comes under this microplankton category, but they are the phytoplanktons. Macroplanktons, here the size is much larger. They can be visible with the naked eyes. So you can see the jellyfish, you can see the sagitta, mysis, salpa. These are the organisms which can be observed. We have the slides of this, we have the specimens of these organs in our laboratory. So these are the uh, planktons, larger than the microplanktons. And nanoplanktons, they are in the very microscopic forms. Their measurements are in the form of microns. So these are the microscopic, cannot be trapped with the plankton net, and size varies from 5 to 60 microns, and these are the all diatoms and the unicellular algae forms under this category. Now, pelagic adaptations. How, what are the body forms, how they are there so that they can lead the pelagic life, floating life, the comfortable life as far as the surface water is concerned, right from the neritic region, also in the oceanic region. Now I are talking about the entire pelagic region, and I have mentioned earlier that this pelagic region collectively constitutes the neritic zone, having the limitations up to the continental shelf, and also beyond the continental shelf in the open sea in the form of the oceanic zone. So this entire surface water is the pelagic region. In this pelagic region, the communities, the organisms which leads the comfortable life in this pelagic region in the surface water, but are much adapted. What are the different adaptations present in them that we are going to study? The very first is the shape. It is not a bladder, it is blade like, needle like, hair like, ribbon like, or branched for floating on the surface of the water. So, as far as the shape is concerned, this shape helps in acquiring the buoyancy in the water, and because of this, the organism can easily float on the surface. The examples which are quoted here is the spirulina, which is having spiral forms. Actually, the I will show you the pictures of these organisms later on. Uh, Thalastrix, which is needle-like, Rhabdospira, spherical in shape, Discopira is disc in shape. So these organisms, according to their shape, are capable of floating on the surface of the water. Now, some of the organisms, they are having thin shell. Now, these shells are thin to reduced weight and to prevent sinking, because this water, as these shells are very much porous, and this water actually enters into the small pores of this shell, and because of this, the specific gravity of is it is reduced, and thus makes the organism float. So the, as I've mentioned, that these radiolarians and these foraminferans, shell-bearing protozoans, they are the form they contribute in this category. Pores, as I mentioned, pores. Shells are with pores to reduce the weight. All pelagic foraminferans. There are certain foraminferans which do not have the porous shell, and sorry, uh, which can also sink, or they settle at the bottom also. Uncalcified exoskeleton. Uncalcified exoskeleton. Skeleton weakly calcified. For example, pelagic lamprey, planktomaya, certain cephalopods. Now, cephalopods, for example, cephalopods, under which phylum these cephalopods are there? Can you tell me? Example is in front of you. Loligo is example. Yes, cephalopods. Which are the organisms which contribute cephalopods?
Crustaceans.
No,
Arthropod.
no. Yes, come on, try.
Tular.
Cephalo. Yes, yes,
Mollusks.
yes, come on. Mollusk. Yes, you are right.
Mollusks.
Mollusks. Very good. Mollusk is the right answer. Mollusk phylum Mollusca is classified into different classes. Class Amphineura, class Gastropoda, class Pelicypoda. We have studied the bivalve, which belongs to class Pelicypoda. We have studied the Pila. We have studied the Pila, which belongs to class Gastropoda. Amphineura, Dentalium is there. Cephalopoda. Cephalo means head region, poda means appendages. So appendages which are present, these appendages are present on the head region. So there are cephalopods with shell, and there are also cephalopods without shell. So can you tell me the example of the cephalopods which are having shell? And if shell is present, the shell may be internal or the shell may be external. And there are also certain cephalopods without any shell. So, being the students of fisheries, you should have this. It's a knowledge. It's a question of the general knowledge, which will enrich your general knowledge. Cephalopods, mollusks, which are having appendages on the head region. They are with shells and without shells. If the shells are present, the shell may be internal the shell may be external. In some of the mollusks, you will find the shell. You have seen pila as such. The shell is present on the or the entire body is covered with the shell, and the soft-bodied animal lies within the shell. But the example which we have quoted here now,
Unio.
unio is the organism with shell. Unio means bivalve with shell. Of course, pila is with shell. Unio is with shell. Spila is having, it is unicell. Unio or bivalve, it is having two shells, isn't it? Loligo, sepia, Loligo. These are all. See example which is quoted here, which is mentioned in the slide here. This slide, Loligo is the squid, what it is commonly called as. Sepia, which is called as cuttlefish. This sepia is having the shell which is present internally. Loligo is also having shell which is present within the body. So this is the difference between the mollusks which are having shell outside the body, as in case of the mollusks, gastropod shells. But the cephalopod without any shell, I want the answer. The cephalopod without any shell, a cephalopod which is having 8 arms. Now you should be able to answer my question. Yes,
Octopus.
yes. Octopus is the
Octopus.
mollusk. Yes, yes, very good. Very, you are right. Octopus is the mollusk, which is marine mollusk, which also falls under the category of cephalopod, and there is without any shell. So uncalcified skeleton is there, and now here, even though the skeleton is present, there is not much more calcification in the shell. So easily you can, if you remove the shell of this sepia, shell of this loligo, they are very much porous and that can be broken easily. So uncalcified shells, they are called as shell pins, and thus they add into the buoyancy of these organisms. Okay. Time is up. Bote madam is waiting for to continue her lecture. So we'll stop here, and you please join another lecture. Bote madam, you please proceed. I will stop sharing.